Good evening, Loretta.
Hi, hi.
I think we're live now.
Cool.
Hello, and wow, thank you for showing up because you had a big fire at your house today, and here you are.
Actually, I
So,
was busy driving home and my husband sent me a voice note and I almost started crying because when I was little, we used to have felt fires, but they were always on another side of our property or they were maybe across the road. And I remember like saying to my mother, I'm so scared. Like, what if our house burns down? And she used to say, no, don't worry. We've got the road between us and the fire. It was always sorted out. And this afternoon, when he sent me the message to say, don't panic when you see the smoke, it's all under control, I suddenly was right back at my 7-year-old self, scared
wow,
that it's going to burn down. Yeah,
that is
amazing.
fascinating. So it was a very profound experience, actually, for
Absolutely.
you.
I mean, it all ended fine. So nobody, nothing happened, and it wasn't a disaster. But yeah, it was profound actually, all round.
And don't you think, sorry, we're going a bit off our topic, which we haven't even started, but I think that's happening a lot right now as we're being pushed and squeezed and broken. And it's so exaggerated at the moment so that everything that we need to see or process is there. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think look, I'm not a particularly energy sensitive person. I mean, I don't really know when I know when Mercury is retrograde only because it's my ruling planet, right? And my brain stops working. But other than that, I don't really know unless someone tells me. And geez, and even I can feel that it's wild out there. I had a friend, she's actually much more sensitive than I am. She sent me a message today. She was flying home from Joburg and she said, I just want to know if it's me it's loopy or if it's loopy out there. And I said to her, well, look, we all know you're loopy, but I'm telling you, it's wild out there. You're spot on.
It's like riding 5 wild horses. It's like, what's
Totally.
next? You just got to hang
Totally.
on. So, actually, that leads really well into our topic, actually. So, you did a live last week on something called toxic positivity.
Mhm.
And I never watch your lives, not because I don't love them, but I'm just too busy now. You know how life goes. And I just had
Mhm.
to watch this one. And I sat there absolutely riveted. And I was like, wow, at last somebody's put a name to
Mm.
what I knew. One of the big reasons I got sick, in fact, I think was because of toxic positivity. So I don't think you really need any introduction. I think most people that are here probably know you. And if they don't, it doesn't matter. They will after this. They'll know your wisdom. But maybe we should just start by defining what is toxic positivity and then lead into how it can create all kinds of problems for us. And interesting, it's meant to be the very thing that helps us manifest, that keeps us happy, that brings abundance towards us. And in fact, it took me cancer and to be 56 years old to realize that that was probably the key problem in my
Mm.
life actually was the so-called positivity, which turned out to actually, I think, make me sick. So I'm going to hand over to you to define it and to talk about it, actually.
Well, I have to be quite honest with you. I hadn't really heard of the term either, okay, until about 2 weeks ago. And I was busy talking to somebody who follows me on Facebook, and she's a colleague of mine actually, and had a hectic time, and she was potentially talking about coaching and whatever was going on, divorce and what. And I must have said something, and she said, yeah, but I mean, she had a previous coach, and she and the coach had an altercation or whatever, and the coach was pushing her to be positive and all this, and I just said, well, I think that's bullshit. And she was like, well, how can you say that? Like, isn't it a good thing to be positive? And I went, well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be positive, but it's not a good or bad thing. As soon as it becomes fundamental or compulsive, anything becomes a bad thing. So broccoli can be a bad thing if it's a compulsive fundamental need to eat too much broccoli and thinking that everyone who doesn't eat broccoli is going to hell. That's not a good thing. Okay. So broccoli in itself is not a problem. So positivity in itself is not a problem. It's our attitude towards it. And then she sent me a message to say, I was talking to a friend of mine. She obviously said to this friend of mine, you won't believe what this woman told me today. And the friend said, oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with her. That's toxic positivity. So I said, okay, I'll do a live on toxic positivity. So I certainly didn't coin the phrase. And actually, I didn't actually even know that there was a term for it. But I do know that anything that becomes compulsive or fundamental. And by fundamental, I mean where you think that that is the only thing that's correct and therefore everything else is wrong. So if you think that positivity is the only thing that is the truth, and that's how you always, as soon as we start using imperative language, I must, I should, I need, I ought, and you think it has to be an always. Literally, it could be broccoli. But in this case, we're talking about positivity, okay? As soon as it becomes an imperative and it becomes compulsive and you develop an idea that only the positive is good and the negative is bad, in other words, we only showcase the positive, we never showcase the negative, then it becomes so polarized. And that polarization is one of the things, amongst others, that causes cancer, amongst other diseases. So the more polarized we are in our perceptions, the more likely we are to get sick. Because what happens is your autonomic nervous system runs all the automatic functions in your body. So this affects your neurology and therefore your chemistry, and that's how you end up making yourself sick eventually. So your autonomic nervous system runs everything that you don't have to think about. So you don't walk around going, oh, it's the middle of my menstrual cycle, I better pop an egg out, and so you don't concentrate really hard and then make your ovary ovulate. That just happens on auto. And the reason why it happens on autopilot is because it's actually governed via your autonomic nervous system. And your autonomic nervous system has two limbs. Your sympathetic nervous system, which we know as the fight, flight, or freeze, and your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, and restore. Now, even those terms sounds like fight, flight, or freeze sounds bad, and rest, digest, and restore sounds awesome. But if you spend all of your life resting, digesting, and restoring, you turn into a fat, immobile, ineffective blob, just as in the same way in which if you spent your whole life in fight or freeze or flight, you would have other problems, okay? So we want both parts of our autonomic nervous system to operate in harmony. We want to be alert when we have to be, like now, your and my sympathetic nervous system is running the show. We're on time. We're talking to the camera. We're on it. We're awake. That's your sympathetic nervous system. Our parasympathetic nervous systems are allowing us to be comfortable, to use our intuition as we speak, to maybe be guided into speaking in certain directions. So we want them both to be working optimally. But what happens is as soon as you polarize anything, what you do is you switch on one half of the autonomic nervous system and you turn off the other half. So it's most often the sympathetic nervous system that you turn on. So when you have to always be happy, when you cannot attract what you'd love into your life unless your attitude is a positive one, when you're ashamed to admit that actually you feel ashamed or guilty or sad or just downright miserable or hopeless. So you can't admit any of that. What happens then is you put yourself in a state of stress and you activate your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, which regulates your digestion, your sleep, to an extent, your heart rate, your hormone regulation, some of your neurotransmitter production. It basically becomes suppressed. So now you start running on adrenaline and all sorts of other chemicals, and you start becoming stressed and overwhelmed, but you're pretending that you're Zen-like and in flow, because if you're not Zen-like and in flow, then clearly you're not a good person, because that's what we need to live up to. So basically what we've done is, instead of having our parents that we needed to please when we were little, we've now got this philosophy of life that we essentially have to adhere to so that we can attract the most amazing life we love. And I'm not knocking the law of attraction, but The Secret came out in 1994 or something, okay? And I have seen a lot of people in that time, and I applied a lot of this. Listen, I was a positive thinker for a huge amount of my life. And quite frankly, I'm not really seeing everybody manifesting the life of their dreams. But the problem is that as soon as the technique doesn't work for you, then the assumption is you're the one who's got the problem. In other words, I'm not doing it right. Oh my goodness, I'm not positive enough. I must have let a negative thought slip in. Ooh, I didn't do my affirmations 1,000 times today because I only did them 500 times. So maybe can you see that we just put ourselves under more pressure and more pressure and more pressure? And in Jinshin Jitsu, which is a Japanese healing technique, they have they speak about attitudes in Jinshin Jitsu. So attitudes are when we have, not just when you have an emotion, when you have it habitually. You know, if you don't just become anxious on occasion, but anxiety becomes an habitual emotion. In Jinshin Jitsu, they say that it's called an attitude. And they have the usual attitudes, worry and anxiety and fear and anger and sadness. But there's one in particular, which in Chinese medicine, actually, it's associated also with the heart and small intestine, organ function energy in Chinese medicine. And the emotion is excess joy. The Chinese call it excess joy. The Japanese call it trying to or pretending. So when we try too hard or we pretend, what happens is we literally send our autonomic nervous system out of balance because we're pretending to be only one half of who we are. It's, as you said in your video, we're not integrating our light and our shadow. And the irony is that the extent to which your light can shine is determined by how well you can integrate your shadow. And we all want our lights to shine. And even more ironic is we don't want to do all that negative stuff because we want to be these lights in the world. But actually, by not integrating that shadow stuff, by not even appreciating that that is okay, it's an okay part of who you are. You called yours your bitch. I mean, honestly, my inner bitch is alive and well, right? She's been alive and well for a long time, okay? I think I've got to try and find my inner sweet. But she's in my shadow, okay? but if we can't integrate those, if we can't love those parts as much as we love the sunshine and rainbows and love and light and lollipop part, then we actually don't allow our light to shine to its full extent. And we switch off half of the function in our physiology. And then we start depleting certain functions. We create excess in other functions. And that's when we start creating chronic inflammation. And as everybody knows, chronic inflammation essentially ultimately leads to autoimmune diseases or diseases like fibromyalgia or certain kinds of cancer or, rheumatoid arthritis or dementia or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. Almost all of those chronic diseases have chronic inflammation as their baseline. And we become inflamed because we are under so much pressure to only ever be one-sided. So that little finger, it's the trying to and the pretense. And you and I were talking about this before. So this is when everybody's always fine. I'm fine. When people tell me I'm fine, I say, how are you? And they go, I'm fine. So you know what fine stands for, right? And they go, no. So fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So don't say you're fine, because fine is not always okay, guys. So I would rather have someone say, you know what, I'm not good, but I don't want to talk about it. That's okay. You don't have to like let everybody know about your stuff. Not everybody wants to know about your stuff, and you don't want to share your stuff with everybody. But at least admit to yourself that, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm not actually okay. I'm not really having a great life. Thank you for asking. I don't really want to talk about it either. I'd like you to distract me, or I just want to have fun, or whatever the case may be. So this pressure that we constantly put on ourselves to be fine is the same as the pressure that we put on ourselves to constantly be good. So one of my teachers, Dr. John DeMartini, he said that most of us, we suffer from the 4 H's of delusion. That you can have health without disease, that you can have happy without sad, that you can have heaven without hell, and that you can have harmony without war, because they come together as a package. And so we, in our deluded way, we're always striving for that one-sidedness, always heavenly, never devilish, always healthy, never unwell, always happy, never sad, always peaceful and zen-like, never at war. And those literally are the H's of delusion, because it's a delusion. Now, one other quote, while I remember it in my head, okay, because I'm not good with quotes. The Buddha said, the pursuit of that which is unattainable Always happy, never sad. That's what I'm putting in there. And the avoidance of that which is unavoidable is the source of all human suffering. So we didn't incarnate here in this physical reality to have a life that was only filled with happiness. All the ancient philosophers, those Stoic philosophers, they said the only constant in life is pain. Now, that sounds horribly depressing. I get that, okay? But you know what? If we accept that pain is always there, pleasure will also always be there, but they come together as a package. So your kind will always be there, your kindness, but your cruelty will also be lurking. Your independence will be there, but your dependent clinginess will also be there. Your intelligence, your genius will be there, but your moron is going to be alive and well, living right next door. And if you can accept that in yourself, then what happens is you accept it in others and they don't trigger you. And when you accept it in yourself and you can open your heart to yourself, that's when you can start opening your heart to others, and then you can start opening your heart to the world. And that's really when your light starts shining. It doesn't shine when you're trying to be a fake version of pretending. So I personally would rather be the real version with the warts and the potty mouth. And I don't actually have real warts, okay, but I'm talking about metaphorical warts, right? But and live life fully, because that's the other thing. When you are only half of who you are, you cut yourself off from half of life. So Satguru said something like that our purpose here is to live life fully. So imagine if that was our only purpose. If our only purpose actually was to truly embrace this opportunity that we have for this tiny little span of time where we actually get to be these physical beings here. And we go, thanks God for giving us this amazing life. But quite frankly, I only take half, thanks. You can keep the other half. So you can't engage. If you can't engage with all of it, how are you grateful for the gift of it? And how can you possibly be making the most of it? So that's more or less what I have to say, I think.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Loretta, it's only since I've accessed my shame, I've had to look at some very difficult shadows, because I spent 56 years of my life trying to be positive and zen and look good, and I did. Boy, did I look good. And by the grace of God, I got cancer on an anti-cancer lifestyle. So I had to look for why. And that's when I realized I had no idea. That's how much we've been socialized, spiritualized, conditioned to believe that we need to look okay, act okay, be zen, be happy. And so much spirituality and self-help stuff has set us up for this. And in fact, you brought a term to my life I'd never heard. Can you believe I was on a spiritual path from my 20s till 56, and I'd never heard the word spiritual bypassing. I'd never heard this toxic positivity till now, because I bought into a religion and a spirituality, and I guess a conditioning that said I must be nice, I must be a martyr, I must look good, I must feel good. So as soon as any of these hectic feelings came up, I put the lid back on them.
Totally.
And because I had trauma in my past, which most people do, so all this stuff went back into my subconscious, and then it starts running your show, doesn't it? And you get very confused, because on the conscious level, you're like, no, I'm meditating, I'm happy, I do gratitude journals, I'm doing all the right things, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, but I have this grinding anxiety all the time, and this fear, and this and that's because I had suppressed so much stuff. And the irony is, now that it's up and out, it's not pretty and it's not comfortable. And sometimes it's really hard for me and other people in my space. But by the same token, it's the first time in my life I've accessed joy. First time. And I've accessed peace beyond understanding. I mean, it's indescribable.
Absolutely.
I'm like, how do these go together? And that's why your live was so amazing for me, because I've been thinking, how can I feel so much shame and so much whatever? And then I can also feel this incredible peace. And now it's obvious because I'm integrating all of it.
Exactly. And so because you can feel one, the more fully you can really feel what we call negative emotions, the more fully you can feel, fully realize positive emotions. Because most of us are shooting for what we call happy. I mean, it's very subjective, isn't it? You know, so it's like, I don't know, if I sign on a new client, I'm happy. Well, I don't know, that lasts for about, I don't know, 25 minutes. And then when they pay me, I'm like happy again when I see the little thing that comes up on my bank thing. And actually, I mean, mostly, not all of them, but most, I actually love most of my clients. And then when I see them, when I'm done, I'm going, oh, actually, I love my job. But quite frankly, after that, I don't think about it again. So, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I see them, I go, holy, I don't know how we're going to, I don't actually know what we're going to, I don't know how we're going to sort this one out. This is a tough one. The fact is that your feelings are also a chemical cascade. That's the other thing. So this is the other problem with spiritual, any kind of bypass, whether it's toxic positivity or it's spiritual bypass or it's more personal development or it's fixing. We're always so fixated on fixing. And I think that comes from the sort of concept of, you're born in original sin and you're going to die in original sin, essentially. You're born flawed. Essentially, it's from that, I believe, that comes from the sort of Christian concept of original sin, or even it's karma. You did something horrible in the last 10 lives, and so that's why you're paying for it. It's not solely in the purview of Christian religion. So we already have this I'm flawed, and you develop all your limiting beliefs before you're 3 years old. And your limiting beliefs are exactly that. They are beliefs that limit you. They're limited to beliefs like I'm powerless, I'm not good enough, I need to be in control because the world is out of control, I'm not worthy, I'm invisible, I'm not capable. Those are all limiting beliefs. And those limiting beliefs develop in the first 3 years of our lives. And they unconsciously, we're trying to compensate for those things for the rest of our lives until we become aware of them, and then we can actually use them to create what we love. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how many affirmations you say. In fact, okay, I'm sorry to tread on some affirmation toes, but let's just clear up the affirmation thing. There's a difference between an affirmation and a choice. So if I understand affirmations correctly, and I mean, I used to be into them at once, but I could never quite get them, to tell you the truth. I could never do them for more than about half a nanosecond, and then I'd lose interest. So I thought that there was something wrong with me, all right? But I realize now in retrospect, actually, it was my unconscious trying to tell me, Loretta, you're barking up the wrong tree. Because when I say an affirmation in the present time, so let's say I say, I'm happy and healthy and rich. That's a stupid one, but let's just go. I'm happy and healthy and rich, okay? Very often what we make as an affirmation is a compensation for how we really feel or what we believe about ourselves. So I believe I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. So because I'm not worthy, I'm unhappy and I'm fat and I'm poor. The opposite of happy and thin and rich, or healthy and rich, or whatever it is that we're going for. So now what I do is I go, I'm going to affirm the positive. So what I'm saying, I'm healthy and I'm happy and I'm wealthy, I'm rich. But my subconscious is going, why is she saying that? Because that's not what she believes. And it goes, oh, she's saying that to feel better because actually she believes she's unworthy. So that's really what she's paying attention to. And your attitude.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So your attitude and your state of mind, your attitude and your positivity does not create your reality. Your focus creates your reality. So if you think you're saying, you want to ask yourself, why do I feel the need to say I'm healthy, happy, and rich? You know why? Because I feel unhealthy, unhappy, and poor. So, and I believe that that's what I am. Okay, so where's your focus? It's actually on unhealthy, unhappy, and poor. It's not on the opposite. So that's how affirmations actually help to reinforce your limiting belief, because it shifts. Your focus is truly not on what you think you're trying to create. Your focus is on what you're trying to compensate for. There's a difference between creating what you would love from the depths of your soul and creating what you think is going to make you feel better, to soothe the fact that you feel bad. That's a topic for a whole different day. But that's part of what happens and comes into play when we force ourselves to be positive, because we think our positive, if you think a negative thought, then you're going to attract something bad. Well, that's not true. You're just thinking a negative thought. That's just a story you're telling yourself, to tell you the truth. Why would that attract something bad? If the negative thought is because you have a limiting belief and it reinforces the limiting belief, which then reinforces the negative thinking, and your focus is on the limiting belief, you're going to create something in your life that shows you that the limiting belief is the truth.
Wow, yes.
So I think instead of attracting stuff, I personally believe that we're made in the image of the Creator, okay? Mm-hmm. And the Creator, we call the Creator because the Creator is the creator. So if you are made in the image of a creator, are you an attractor or are you a creator? Quite frankly, I would rather be a creator, because attractor sounds powerless to me. Attractor means I have to meet a certain set of criteria to please something or someone all powerful who will then possibly reward me with what I want. And if I don't get rewarded, it's because I'm bad. So I've got to work hard at being good. Whereas I'm a creator is, okay, I'm going to set out to create. I'm going to make this magic. I'm literally going to go. I mean, I know this sounds very egotistical, but I'm going to be like God and say, you know what, I think I'm going to separate the land from the water. That's really what I want to do today, okay? Because that's what I would love to create. And I might not get it right, but what I don't get right, I use as feedback that A, maybe that's not really what I wanted, or B, maybe I just need to carry on focusing on that and allow it to unfold and keep on taking action in the direction of that thing, and not try and soothe the fact that I feel bad. Some of the best musicians and artists were depressed when they created magnificent. Do you honestly think Beethoven was excited when he heard he was going deaf, when he knew he was going deaf? I'm sure he wasn't going like, oh, it's okay, guys. I'll never listen to my symphonies played by a real orchestra. I'll just listen to them in my head and they'll be okay. He must have been pissed. He must have been. Did he stop? No, because he had a vision. He was a creator. And he wrote that pastoral symphony, I think it's number 9, when he was stone deaf. He couldn't possibly have been jumping around going, I'm so happy I'm deaf. I'm sure he thought, you know what, this would be easier if I could just hear things. But quite frankly, I'm moved to create this, to bring this thing into the world. When we can connect to what that is for us, then it doesn't matter if unhappiness comes, circumstances sway you, you get stressed, you get drawn off the path a little while, but you know what? You keep your eye on the why, literally. And you just keep on taking action. And then you find that life's vagaries has less of an ability to sway you. I actually got completely sidetracked. What I was going to say about emotions was, if you suppress emotions, they get stuck in your physiology. They want to be felt. So if I feel ashamed, but I've got to be positive, so I'm not allowing shame to come through my door, then I'm just storing shame to wreak havoc somewhere, either in my mood, which I take out in my relationships, or in my body, or in my ability to concentrate, or in my creativity. It's going to go somewhere, guys. And it never goes anywhere good. It doesn't go anywhere good. So if feelings want to be felt, and you can't, by the same token, your light can't shine unless you integrate the shadow. So, the more you get the shadow in, the brighter the light can become. And so the more you can feel feelings like shame, betrayal, guilt, revenge, rage, the more you're going to be able to experience bliss, peace, joy, the greater the extent is going to be. So literally, we are cutting ourselves off from half of life when we try and be only one-sided. When you hang out with, when you meet, you get some people who are just perennially negative, right? And no one really wants to be with them because they're like an energy, they're like an energy black hole. They just attract it all into themselves. And you wonder why it is they're like that. Well, because first of all, that's how they get energy. It's not a good or bad thing. It's not a judgment, but we judge that. We're like, why don't you, honestly, I wish that person could snap out of that. I don't want to be with that person. They're so negative. They're such an energy drain. I feel the same about perennially positive people. Honestly, they just annoy me. It's so draining. It's so exhausting. You can't even have an argument with them because they're so about positive. So what's the difference? The only difference is that the person who's incredibly negative makes you feel uncomfortable, possibly. And the person who's incredibly positive doesn't make you feel that uncomfortable, only because we've been brainwashed into thinking that positive is good and negative is bad. They're just as dysfunctional. The one is as dysfunctional as the next because the one is just as far from the midline, the happy medium, as the other one is. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now because otherwise I'm not going to stop. You know me.
I think we'll have to have a few more conversations. It's a really very important topic, this, Loretta. It's very multifaceted because it affects every part of our life. I mean, I've been seeing recently things like even pyramid schemes and whatever those but so much of it is couched in positivity and spirituality. It's like, okay, so if you cannot bring 2 more people onto our whatever, there's something wrong. You've got limiting beliefs. You're not attracting abundance. And then everybody feels guilty. It's like, I'm not good enough. I'm not high vibrational enough. And it's actually quite scary. I think it's going to it has already, and it's going to have a very toxic effect on the world, actually. And that's why it's showing itself in Technicolor now. We need to heal this because it's a very modern thing, don't you think? I'd say in modern, I don't know if it's an industrial revolution or 30 years, that we have to be okay all the time. I mean, the sacred path, the journey of sacred training with the mystics was to go through incredible suffering. And
the dark night of the soul, right?
Dark night of the soul. And now we all poo-poo that. When I say to people, you got to go through a dark night of the soul to become your best, happiest God self, they go, oh, you're just addicted to suffering. I'm like,
absolutely.
That's what we've been taught and socialized, and it's very, very dangerous. And I never realized that till. So thank you for showing up to do this. And I see we have a few comments or questions here. Can I have a look at them and see who's...
While you're doing that, can I just mention, sorry, I just wanted to mention the life mapping mini course, right? I'm going to do a shameless plug for this, yeah? You guys, I'm doing this in Antoinette's group. I did it in my own group. And I got some really good feedback. And so I'm going to do it in Antoinette's group. And one of the beauties of the life map is that one of the things that people say to me when they do their life maps, they go, I didn't realize I had so many contradictions. I'm going, duh, of course you've got so many contradictions. That's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about, like Antoinette was saying in her video, she's the gypsy, but she's also that good organized girl. And, she's the like A type. It's got to be done like this. And then she's the very sort of intuitive and more creative, the gypsy kind. And those are the contrasts, or I call them the tensions, because they create tension. They only create tension if you don't want to integrate and accept that they're all there. So that's one of the beauties of the life map. It really helps to show you not only your highest potential, it can show you your lowest potential too, but it highlights those, what you think are contradictions, and the parts that you think are wrong, when you know that that is inherently a part of your makeup. You know what? It's like saying the consonants T, B, C, and D are bad consonants, so we're never going to use them again in English. Okay, try and speak English without those. Very hard, right? But if you just put them in, even if they're bad, you go, those are the bad consonants, but we're going to use them anyway. You can speak the language more effectively. And so when you do your life map and you see these areas, these contradictions, and you learn how to manage them, because they all just want a bit of attention, actually. They're like children. They just want some attention. When you learn how to give them attention, when you learn how to use your hero to get you out of your villain, so rather than having to deny that you have a villain, and rather than having to positive think yourself out of your villain, you're actually going to shift your focus to where the strength lies so that you can take action that's more in alignment with what you'd love to create. And so that's why I'm focusing in this mini workshop on the villain and the hero, because you don't have to know anything else about life math except what your hero and your villain is. And you can then start using that, not to hate your villain and love your hero. You wouldn't have a hero if you didn't have a villain. It's just to recognize, I must be my villain. Okay. So when you're in your villain, are you focused on what you'd love, or are you focused on a limitation? Well, probably a limitation. So what would you prefer? Well, I prefer to focus on what I'd love to create in my life. Okay, well then how about drawing on the hero energy? So that's how you use it. It's very practical. It is very much like there's got to be a takeaway that you can use. And then the Jinshin Jitsu really helps you to shift your energy so that you can integrate it. This is not about, as I say, vilifying your hero, your villain, and aggrandizing your hero. Those are big words, eh? It's not about making your hero like on a pedestal and putting your villain in the pit. It's about realizing they're both there and just noticing which one is currently running the show, and are you enjoying that? Because if you're not, you have a choice to change it. And that's the difference between an affirmation and a choice. A choice gives you the power. An affirmation doesn't shift your focus. An affirmation is more like pretend. A choice isn't pretend. So that's why I would highly recommend that you all come to Antoinette's mini workshop that I'm actually giving in Antoinette's group, okay?
Yeah, and Loretta's teaching me to be able to just sell things as well, because one of my limiting beliefs is I can't sell anything that helps people. So thank you for helping me with that.
You're very welcome. Okay.
And we've been very blessed that Loretta's doing a whole 2 hours for a mere $27 or 350 Rand. So yes, we'll see you there. Thank you, Loretta. Okay, let me see if there's any okay, someone said scary. I don't know what that means. Esther said, hello, this is what Anita Benjani said was the main reason she got ill, thinking she had to be positive all the time, but doing this out of fear. Yes, Esther, that book, when someone put it in my hand when I got cancer, was a very big turning point for me. It's called, for those who haven't read it, it's called Dying to Be Me. So Esther said, this is true liberation and healing, being true to ourselves, including our shadows, our vulnerabilities, and all our facets of the gem we are. And then Faye also said, I love it. I'm normal.
Yes, remember, we're all fine, Faye. All of us, we're all fine.
Esther says, I'm going as far that we have chosen this life, all lives and its challenges, in order to become aware of who we are while we're in this body. In Buddhism, this is called non-grasping, non-duality. And then Maya Kuviji says, affirmations, me too. It never stuck until I learned the choice thing from you, which feels real.
Oh,
wow.
Thanks.
Compensate makes so much sense. Okay, Aubrey said, thank you for sharing this. And Tarina Roberts said, thank you both. Food for thought. So
thank you. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for inviting me, Antoinette. And thanks to all of you who are watching and the people who are going to watch the recording. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for showing up, Loretta, and being the awesome you.
Thanks, Antoinette.
Good night, everybody. And thank you for being here. Good night.